On today's Locked On Jayhawks, recapping KU's win in the Big 12 semifinals over Iowa State. Moving on to the Big 12 championship, we'll do a little preview of that as well with Locked On Jayhawks.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Derek Johnson. Thanks for making Locked On Jayhawks your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get any of your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. You can also hear me on Rock Chalk Sports Talk Monday through Fridays from 3 to 6 on KLWN in Lawrence. And on today's edition of Locked On Jayhawks, we're recapping KU's semifinal victory over the Iowa State Cyclones. I only got to watch bits and pieces of the first half, and then I got to watch a little bit of the end. I went back and had time, got to rewatch the game afterwards, and it felt a little bit similar to the West Virginia game in certain regards. Now, I'll get to that in a second, but Kansas wins 71-58, and it was kind of led by, it was a solid offensive outing. You had some nice things happen for you offensively. You're playing one of the best defenses in the country in Iowa State. Now, that's not as much the case with West Virginia, but it was mostly a game about the defense and a game that you ended up winning by double figures, a game that you kind of controlled the whole way through, but at the same point in time, you never really stretched out the big lead or pulled away until maybe the final, in the Iowa State game, maybe a little bit later in the game than the West Virginia game, but both kind of in that last 3 to 6, 7 minute range of the game. But yeah, the interior offense was really good for Kansas. They hit a couple shots on post ups. They were really good on some of those short rolls and throwing lobs and having the big men throw down dunks or finishing at the rim. Jalen was just really good overall. Gradey Dick was searching for his shot. Dajuan Harris in control one more time for KU. Kansas shot 68% on 2-point shots. I had to double check that when I looked at that and I saw the number 68% on 2-point shots. I was like, wait a minute, is this right? Are we watching the same KU offense here? Is this the KU offense that doesn't have, a post-up threat, doesn't have the traditional center down low? Do I have the right team here? I mean, it's been an offense that's been good at 2-point shots. They're 69th in the country in Big 12 only games. They're third in the country. It's like they've been bad at it, but 68%, that's like something Gonzaga would do against San Francisco, 68%. That was KU's highest 2-point offense game of the season. The second best was Texas Southern. That was 65.4. Then you go to Kansas State, Missouri, Baylor, Seton Hall, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and Harvard as the other games where you hit 60% or more. Unbelievable game. And again, that's an Iowa State defense that is one of the top 10 defenses in the country. So you did really well on twos. You didn't really shoot it well from three, but because you shot so well on twos and the defense was excellent for KU, that's how you come out with the victory. You held Iowa State to 39.5% on 2-point shots. So there was a 30% swing in what you did inside the arc versus what they did. Now, they shot well from three, and that kind of kept them in it for a little bit of time. But in the end, the mass onslaught of that interior game was too much. And here's where the KU defense really came into play. You forced 22 turnovers from Iowa State, and that included 13 steals for KU. It's one thing to force 22 turnovers. There's a lot of dead ball turnovers, throws out of bounds, just them making self-inflicted plays. Those are still helpful for you as a defense and really going to hurt the opposing offense. But the types of turnovers KU was getting, with 13 of the 22 being steals, are the types that it is going to help the KU offense. So if you're looking, why did they shoot 68% from two? Yeah, they did a good job finishing around the rim. They also got a lot of steals that led to open buckets in transition, which if you're getting a wide open layup or dunk in transition, guess what? You're going to shoot 100% on those, right? Or 99.9%, right? With the occasion of a weird missed dunk. And the edge there led to Kansas being up 25-6 in points off turnovers. You won the game by 13. You were plus 19 in points off turnovers. Typically, that's a number you'd expect Kansas to do well at because they're good in transition. But this is a TC or a Iowa State defense that is one of the best in the country. They came into the game number 2 in the entire country in turnover rate defensively. So They're a good team at winning points off turnovers as well. You beat them 25-6 in that category. And that combined with the 2-point shooting, which again was kind of the circle there of what caused what, was why you won the game, because you probably gave up too many offensive rebounds. I think you gave up 15 offensive rebounds in the game. You know, it's once you get closer to 20, that's where it's like a real problem. 15 is not good, to be clear. Again, if you go by offensive rebound rate, defensive rebound rate, that's the better number to look at. But just in terms of the raw stats, like it's not a great number for KU to give up. You also had 17 turnovers offensively, to where I kind of thought the recipe for success in this game for KU was hold Iowa State to 12 or 13 offensive rebounds and only have 11 or 12 turnovers. And if that happened, you'd feel good enough about the possession game that you should win out in some other areas. But you weren't great holding on the ball. It's 17 of them. Jalen had 7 turnovers, gave up 15 offensive rebounds. But you were so dominant at those other things. You were so dominant at 2-point shots and preventing their 2-point shots. Again, about a 30% difference between the two. That even those things combined with Iowa State shooting 42% from 3, you won going away in the final 3 to 5 minutes of the game. And so circling back to this being a little similar to the West Virginia game, KU led for 35 plus minutes in both games. So, I mean, that's 7/8 of the game at the very least. Like, it's very little of the game that you're not leading for. And then when you add in times when the game was tied, like times the other team led is very, very slim. But for a majority of both games with Iowa State and West Virginia, both cases were against good opponents. Even though you led for a majority of it, it felt like you would push the lead to 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And then the other team would, you know, hit a little bit of a spurt or run, and they'd get it to a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 point game, somewhere in that range. And then once you got to the final kind of moments of the game, whether it was 3 minutes to go, 4, 5, 6, whatever, the final moment of the game, you did what winning teams do. You did what championship teams do in March. You went for the kill shot and you accomplished it. You delivered the kill shot down the stretch. You dominated down the stretch and pulled away so that you don't have to worry about, hey, are we going to turn it over against the press? Are we going to make or miss our clutch free throws? No, just put it out of reach so it doesn't even matter. And that's one of the best ways to avoid being upset in the NCAA tournament. There's crazy things that happen down the stretch of games with turnovers, with missed free throws, with buzzer beater shots. You know what the best way? Kevin Flaherty of 24/7 Sports says this all the time on RCST. The best way to not lose close games is to not play close games. Because if you play enough close games, something weird's going to happen against you, and it's going to be a little more fluky. So if you're Kansas, don't play close games. Well, pull away at the end. You did it against West Virginia. You did it again against Iowa State. But collectively now, this is amazing to me. I don't know if this is as cool of a stat for other people, but KU has now led for over 73 of the possible 80 minutes of play during the Big 12 tournament against the competition they've played. So 73 of the 80 minutes, they have been in the lead. They have been in control of the Big 12 tournament. They've been unbelievable so far. They're playing absolutely great basketball right now in Kansas City. And I think that's just so indicative of how well a team could play, because if you own the lead for a majority of the game, you could lose the game late, but over the course of time, you're going to win more of those games. It's kind of the process thing, right? And that shows really good process for what they've been able to do here. And you add up that it's against two really good opponents. Iowa State's going to probably be a 5 or 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like, wouldn't shock anybody if they made another Sweet 16. West Virginia is going to be a very dangerous, 7, 8, 9 seed, 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. That would it shock you if they got like a 10 seed and they upset the 7 and then upset the 2? No, it wouldn't. Like, they're a very good team. And you were just able to control both games against both opponents. The defense hitting another stride. You're getting good play from a minimum of 4 of the starters, which is kind of the recipe for success. And then if all 5 go off, that's when we see the A+ games for KU. That's happened in these last 2 games. We've seen a little bit of flashes from some of the bench to certain regards. And even though Kevin McCullough has been injured and dealing with some stuff, you're still looking really impressive, which speaks to how those other 4 starters have kind of been doing. All right, we're going to get on to our GOATs of the game, but first, this episode of Locked On Jayhawks is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook app, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to points, scores, and threes drained. I'll just tell you this. I am blindly going to put a same-game parlay on FanDuel tomorrow. Jalen Wilson get 20-plus points. Jalen Wilson get 10-plus rebounds. It's hit the first 2 games. He is on a mission right now. He is on a tear. I'm going to say it happens again. And that'll probably pay off pretty well. Usually him to score 20-plus is around even odds. Him to get 10 rebounds is usually around slightly plus odds. You can probably get that parlay together at like plus 200, plus 300. So get in on it. And sometimes they've been given a lot of like college basketball boosts lately. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets at a chance for an even bigger payout with same game parlay. Don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Notes of the game, starting with the good here on Locked On Jayhawks. We're going to try to have an episode, by the way, coming at you on Sunday morning to recap whatever happens in the Big 12 championship game. And then we'll have a Monday morning episode talking about what like seed they got, the region, the path, and everything with the NCAA tournament. So be on the lookout for all of that upcoming. But goats, good goat, Jalen Wilson. Jalen Wilson had 7 turnovers, and he still had an excellent game. There's not many players you could say that about, and certainly that's something you want to shore up, but he was so good from the start. He just kept you afloat and got you going and provided that energy. Like the way he started the game, it wasn't just about the scoring, but it was about the energy, and a lot of that was because he was scoring that really lifted up the rest of the team, I thought. He ends up with 25 points for the game. He ends up with 10 rebounds in a game that you didn't do a great job on the defensive glass, but if you don't have Jalen, it's an abject disaster on the defensive end of the glass because he was good at able to kind of bring some down. He also had 3 steals, which contributed to KU's 13 steals for the game, which we already talked about was one of the biggest portions of the game. But he's in kind of command mode right now. He's had 4 straight 20-plus point outings, and you look at the last 2, the efficiency numbers are kind of coming around as well. After the first 2 of those 20-plus point outings of the 4 straight were, under 40%, but he was still grinding his way there. So really impressive stuff so far from Jalen Wilson and what we've seen in the Big 12 tournament. Has you feeling good that, he had that really strong run of play. Then he had a bit of a rut where like for a 6 or 7 game stretch, he was averaging like 12 points per game. You feel confident that he is out of that stretch, that if it was him hitting a bit of a fatigue wall, or if it was just, good teams doing a good job scouting, and now he's figured out the adjustment. Whatever the reason is, he seems to be trending again in the right direction, headed into the NCAA tournament, looking like that guy that for much of the season wasn't just a first-team All-American and National Player of the Year candidate. He was the guy that was going to win it if Zach Edey ever fell off, which Edey obviously never did. Dajuan Harris gets a good goat. 11 points, 6 assists, 4 steals. KU stays undefeated in games where he scores in double figures. He passed it all around. You saw some of the nice passes on the pick and rolls to KJ, who really benefited from his play, and just getting everybody involved. The 4 steals again. I mean, he's now got 9 steals in 2 Big 12 tournament games. He's really having a good showing after, being named to the, not just all Big 12 defensive team, but also the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I wonder if he is playing with an extra edge for not being, though, on the first, second, or third team, though. You saw Seth Davis put him on his 3rd-team All-American list, and yet he couldn't even get on the 3rd-team All-Big 12 list. I'm sure he's playing with an extra edge, and he has to be on the All-Big 12 tournament team, right? He's been so good these first 2 games, and he's putting up numbers, double digits in both games, a bunch of assists, a bunch of steals. The value obviously is there. They're playing in the title game, which usually the team who wins the Big 12 title gets like 2, maybe even 3 guys on the team. Team who loses it might get 1 or 2, and then somebody else might get like 1. Dajuan has got to be on it. If he's not, is a crime against humanity. I'll have a vote for it, so I will tell you I'm voting for Dajuan Harris. I guess I shouldn't say that, because what if Dajuan in the championship has 0 points on 0 of 40 shooting, right? Then it probably would feel bad about it. But no, I feel good that Dajuan Harris will probably be on that all Big 12 tournament team. Gradey Dick's aggressiveness, I think, gets a good goat here. So it wasn't like it clearly wasn't a bad game. It was a good game overall for Gradey. But I think the most important part, or the best part about it, was how aggressive he was. Like 15 points. 15 points is a very good number for Gradey to be at, to be clear. But 15 points on 4 of 10, like 40%. That's not, top-notch efficiency from Gradey. We know he can have games where he goes 4 of 6 just from 3-point range. He went 4 of 10 from the field in total. There were a couple times maybe he got lost a little bit defensively. Maybe a couple times where I don't know, he was still a freshman out there, I guess is the way of putting it. But, overall, I thought that the aggressiveness was nice to see, because we saw that in the West Virginia game and shots were going down. He scored 18 points. But what happens when the shots aren't going down as much? Like, will you still continue to be aggressive? Because that was kind of the problem with the past couple of games before the Big 12 tournament, that it's not just the shots weren't falling, it's that he lost the aggressiveness. And again, I'll say it, as I've said many times, a semi-contested shot for Gradey Dick is going to be a higher percentage shot than an open shot for a lot of other guys. Dajuan Harris kind of spoke about that yesterday at a Big 12 Media Day. So, or not Media Day, I'm sorry, like post-game after the semifinal. So I think that was a good sign that you got it back-to-back games and how active he is, because it's also about Gradey Dick opens things up for other players on the floor. And so if he's creating that gravity and forcing defenders to really get on him, and it opens up a driving lane for somebody else, like, that's a win as well. All right, we're going to finish up with our bad goats. We also have a limbo goat here with Locked On Jayhawks. But first, if you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. If you're like me and you want to eat healthier snacks, you don't want to dig into the chips and everything, but you want something that still tastes good, Built Bar is perfect. They are 100% real chocolate, and they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. They only have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein, and you can order them online so that they just show up at your door. It's perfect. It's nice and easy. Go to built.com to do that. You can also, though, if you're somebody who likes to pick stuff up in person, or maybe you just want to give it a try, you got a Walmart or Sam's Club near you, perfect. Go to Walmart, go to the pharmacy section. You can get a 4-bar box, cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs. How about going to your Sam's Club? And, when you're buying all these things in bulk, well, get yourself some Built Bars. You can get a 13-bar box, brownie batter, churro, some of the other amazing flavors. Or again, you can still order online at built.com. You can thank me later with Built Bar. So I do have one in limbo. It would be the KU center play. The reason I couldn't get it up to good goats is going back to the rebounding stuff. KU gave up 15 offensive rebounds to Iowa State. That's not all on the centers. We know KU is very dependent on the wings to come up and rebound. And I do think a big part of that is, now to be fair, Iowa State did a really good job on the offensive glass. Both games they played KU in the regular season too, when this was not the case. But Kevin having his injured back, I think certainly hurt that, because Kevin is your second best rebounding wing. Jalen Wilson's the first. Kevin's the second. And that certainly hurts you there. I think he only had 1 rebound for the game. He couldn't be as aggressive for it. And also he only played 12 minutes. So I think that certainly impacted it. But that's why the KU center play ended up in limbo as opposed to on a good goat. But overall, like, stats look really good. And I thought they had like nice impact plays at key moments. There was that stretch where Iowa State got up a point kind of in the middle of the second half, and Ernest Uday made some big plays out in transition. Like, KJ had a couple really nice finishes off feeds from Dajuan Harris. Total it up, the two of them had 12 points on 5 of 7 from the floor, so good efficiency. 5 assists, how about that? 4 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal. Again, you gave up too many offensive rebounds. You only had 4 rebounds, so that's why you're in limbo here. But also the assists, going more into that with the 5 assists. With the way that Iowa State pressures, they put so much attention to the guy at the top, and they always make him panic, and then they try to force you to throw it one way so that they know where it's coming and they intercept the steal, or that they put you into a more difficult situation where you're not going the way you're trying to go. But because KU has, this is mostly KJ, he had 4 of the 5 assists, but Ernest had 1 too. KJ is basically a 4-man, a wing with his ball skills in terms of what he can do passing the ball and dribbling the ball, which helps so much in this matchup, to where you just throw him the ball in the high post and he's not like your traditional center where he's like, oh no, what do I do with it? Right. And that's what Iowa State can kind of bank on sometimes. They get teams, centers, to have the ball in the high post where they have all this pressure around them and they don't know what to do and they turn it over. he doesn't have to worry about that as much with KJ, which is super helpful there. Our bad goats, Kevin's back. Sucked to see Kevin get injured he was going for the trying to rip the ball away, and I made it worse. Maybe I feel like, there was some talk, like, did KU clinch the number 1 overall seed with that win against Iowa State? It certainly seems like a lot of people are leaning yes, but maybe still up in the air. I think it might be better just to rest Kevin for the Big 12 championship after tweaking it. But again, back spasms can be something that go away quickly. I don't know. I'd just rather have him healthy for the NCAA tournament. But that certainly stinks. And, you're relying on some of the bench guys a little bit more than you've been used to over the course of things. And that is part of the problem, because here's our other bad goat, Bobby plus Joe minutes overall in the Big 12 tournament. So in this game against Iowa State, they combined for 31 minutes. They only had 2 points on 1 of 4 from the floor. Now, the 2 points, again, ultimate Joe Yesufu experience, because that layup was a very fun highlight and was a tough layup to make in transition. But also, when you look at the end of the day, 31 minutes, 2 points on 1 of 4 with 3 rebounds, 0 assists to 2 turnovers, 2 fouls, 1 steal. That's not getting it done from both those guys. And if you combine it in the Big 12 tournament, Bobby Pettiford and Joe Yesufu in the 2 games have 53 minutes of play, 9 points scored on 4 of 12, 5 rebounds, 1 assist to 4 turnovers, 5 fouls, and 2 steals. Not getting it done. You're going to need more, especially if Kevin's back is going to continue to linger into the postseason. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. We'll be back to recap whatever happens for KU in the Big 12 championship game out in Kansas City, and then we'll have an episode the next day talking about KU in the NCAA tournament draw that they will receive on a Sunday. We're getting to that fun time of year. I know everybody is looking forward to filling out their bracket. Nothing like seeing that blank bracket, right? But anyway, you can hit me up on Twitter at DJohnsonRadio. You can listen to all the shows on YouTube or anywhere you find any of your podcasts. You can also hear me during the week on Rock Chalk Sports Talk. Have a good rest of your day. Later.